Pedro from A&P-Reacts. I'm here today with Adrienne of Seven Spires to talk about Gods of Debauchery. I love the title of this record. Out September 10th on Frontiers Music. How's it going with you?
It is really great. I'm a little overwhelmed with the sheer amount of stuff there is to do, but I'm here and I'm awake and I'm alive and I'm happy to be here.
Well, you should be used to it by now. I mean, this is your third time going around with Seven Spires, and that actually takes me to my first question for you. Is this going to be the last chapter in the story that started 2 records ago?
It is the third chapter, and it feels like the last chapter, but nothing is for certain. I never really want to say never.
Yeah, because the way this story goes on this record, it kind of gives you a little bit of a sense of finality, but that doesn't mean it's the end. It could be the end of one part of the story and the beginning perhaps of another part of a different story still connected to it. Do you guys kind of have that sense when you were writing this record?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, when we were writing it, it wasn't clear until the end or towards the end that, okay, this might actually be the last one, and then we do something else after this. Not really sure, but it definitely, I agree with you. It has this sense of like, there are themes and melodies from like the last 2 albums tied in. And then at the end, like everything, like all the details are packaged up, and yeah, maybe that's it.
And here you
I mean, obviously we'll keep making records, but it might not be related to that universe. We'll see. I have a lot of maps and stuff that I've drawn up for like later ideas, and it might be like way, way in the past, but the same universe, the way they, released like really like Breath of the Wild, for example, in the Zelda universe, like or Skyward Sword is like so far before everything else happened. I don't know. We'll find out, I guess.
Almost like a spin-off.
Yeah, maybe. Or like going deeper into the lore of things. I don't know.
Yeah. Was this album more challenging than the 2 previous records, considering everything that has gone into it?
Yeah, it was more challenging for sure, emotionally, technically. But the part that wasn't hard was the fact that we were at home for 8-9 months and could just spend every single day working on the album. So that part was great. It made the rest of it a lot easier. I was also I was like super into fitness last year to like help with my anxiety basically. And so I would do like an hour of cardio every day, and I would watch like orchestration tutorials and like new lessons and like songwriting tips and stuff. So yeah, if everything was harder, it's because we had more time to get better at it before we got to do it.
You had more time to go deeper within your brain, and then perhaps maybe even a little bit second guessing yourself, because you're not really rushing it. You have all the time in the world. At least it felt like last year there was all the time in the world.
Absolutely, yeah. And we were really grateful. We definitely like to let the songs sit and stew for as long as possible to become the best version of themselves. Oftentimes, the version that you hear is like the 3rd or 4th draft, and maybe it was completely different when we first wrote it. Not always, but sometimes.
Did the concept of the record push the sound on the album, or does the sound on the album drive the concept of the record?
I think it's a little bit of both, but I think a lot of the lyrical content and the emotions behind like the experiences that I draw from when I write the lyrics, I guess, a lot of that pushed towards like a much darker and like just very sad and angry sound. I feel like maybe someone at the label labeled it extreme metal, and I wouldn't necessarily that's true, although there are definitely some extreme moments and definitely a lot of extreme feelings. It is an extremely emotional record. But yeah, I would say it's a little both. Yeah.
I saw that little label that came with the record when I got the album for review, and I saw extreme metal, and I was like, interesting. I mean, there are some extremes, like you said, on the album as far as sound, vocals, emotions, but it's still Seven Spires.
Yeah. I mean, also, like, granted, we're on Frontiers, so like maybe in the context of Frontiers land, maybe that is pretty extreme for them. I think we're different than a lot of their artists, and yeah.
Yeah, that is true too.
Maybe we're on the extreme end of
you're on the extreme
spectrum
of of the band that they have on their roster.
That's right. That's right. Should I close this curtain? Is the lighting bothering you?
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay. Just want to be
You,
sure.
you look very vampire-ish, which is
okay.
Fine.
Perfect.
Which I think is perfect. I think it suits you.
Thanks.
The first thing that I noticed when I start listening to this record is how gigantic this album is. I mean, you got 16 songs, you got 77 minutes in length. The album just feels like massive, even before you press play on the first song. But the moment you press play, then you start to feel like, okay, this is not just a long record. This is not just an album that has a lot of songs. This is an album that has a lot for you to digest musically, vocally, from a storytelling aspect, lyrics. I mean, it's like a 7-course meal. How do you build an album that it's this big, that is this elaborate, and you still make it engaging for the listener to stay connected with it from the first song all the way to the last?
That's a great question. Honestly, we just had time and we really made sure that everything was as good, the best version that it could be of whatever it was. And I think I had a lot to say musically, lyrically. I think all of us had a lot to say, especially over the last years. I think we started writing Emerald Seas, the last album, in like 2015. And so between 2015 and 2020, there's like a lot of stuff happened. Chris joined Vital. I joined Winds of Plague, Avantageous, blah, 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 Masters of Ceremony. Jack has been doing a lot of mixing, and Pete's, joined is working at a record label and managing bands and stuff. We all have so much experience to draw from and talk about. So it's not just like, here are 17 songs about being sad on tour. It's like, here's like this thing that happened, and that's 4 songs, and then that fits into the story here, and then like the last 2 are over here. You know what I mean? There's so much to talk about, and I feel like at least I like to think that there's no getting bored, because there's no like, all right, another fucking song like this. Okay, now. That was a long-winded answer. Sorry.
No, that was one of the things that I noticed about the album, that I was worried about the record before I pressed play, because when you look at the amount of songs and the length, you're like, wow, I really need to take some serious time to sit down and listen to this, because it's not something that you can just skim over or play while you're vacuuming your living room. Like, I mean, you have to give the album the time to breathe. So you have to give yourself the time to really enjoy it. But the first thing that I noticed is that you guys carried over elements from song to song that allowed me to not feel lost in the length of the record. So like the first song, it's one way, but then there's a few little crumbs of that song that get moved into the next song. And then whatever that song creates, the crumbs of that creation get moved into the next song. And you guys did that all the way through. Like, you guys just kind of left breadcrumbs for the listener. Do you feel that way?
Oh, absolutely. And I take so much joy in doing this, leaving little Easter eggs from previous songs, previous albums, even. I think one of the first instances of like, oh, here's a melody you might know. At the end of The Cursed Muse, there's like, in the horn section, there's the da na 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 na, which is "You are weak, my dear, clear your mind," from the first album. And all of this colors, like, people have heard those songs before. I mean, if they're Seven Spires fans, they've heard these songs before. So like, if you know our previous stuff, then it's like, whoa, I knew that one already, kind of. And then you remember how you felt when you heard the original song the first time, and then that colors your experience with this song, and that makes you feel a certain way, which, I mean, that was the intention, like, from a songwriting perspective. Like, I want you to feel like you're already in on it to some degree, and now we're just going to take what we already have and we're going to build on it even more. So buckle up, because it's a lot. Yeah,
it's an interesting album from that perspective. Now, I felt that this is a record that for the fans of the band, it's an easier journey to take, because while you're going down a different road, we've traveled with you guys before. So
that's true.
So I felt like it was easier for me to absorb everything that this album had to offer. But do you feel like this is perhaps a more complex record for the fans that are discovering you guys with this album, and it will take more work for them?
I think it will take more work for them, but I feel like I don't feel worried about that, because we've definitely met some new followers, new fans from the single releases. and it's speaking to the right people, and I think those people will be willing and maybe even happy to take the journey to ride the emotional roller coaster. But yeah, there are definitely moments that I think are actually maybe even more accessible than the last two albums. Something like In Sickness and Health, maybe even a song like Gods of Debauchery. I feel like that if you like melodic death metal, then oh, here you go.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's something that I could just like, that's like a little appetizer that I could just hand somebody if they haven't heard of us. Or like, if you're a fan of power metal, like here's a song with Roy Khan on it. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. But if it spoke to them enough, then maybe it won't be too hard to check out the rest. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that this is an album that for the fans of the band is a lot easier for us to get engaged in the journey and go through the album. I hope that the people that are discovering the band take the time to listen to this record, because I feel like this is the best album you guys have released. It may not be, it may not be the easiest album to process because there's just so much there. It's one of those albums that I think if you listen to it 10 times, or if you give it to 10 different people, everybody's going to have a different opinion about it, because we all going to bring our own experiences of our own personal experience, but also our personal experiences with you guys into what's going to be this new experience of listening to this album. So I feel like this is one of those records that never really gets old. I just feel like new fans may take a little bit more time to get used to everything that you guys are giving us on this album. I'm glad that I've been there from the first record. So for me was a much different experience.
I'm glad you've been here since day one too. I was actually so excited when I saw your name on the interview list. I'm like, yeah, A&P-Reacts, Pedro.
We have to chill. I mean, like this album, you guys really hit a home run here and across all the different elements. And I'm not just saying this because we're talking here, but I was really blown away by this album. Not that the two previous records don't have their own merits, but this to me feels like just a little bit of a step above. And the question I have for you is, where does that step above come from? Is this a gradual process of you guys learning from the mistakes and also from the things that you did right in the two previous records and kind of bringing it all together to the table?
To some degree, yeah. I mean, everything, especially on a technical level, whether that's our musicianship or like arranging skills or even audio engineering, like we definitely stepped our game up there. But I think again, we had so much time to really put all the love and care that could possibly go into a record. And with something like Emerald Seas, I mean, we were all still at Berkeley when we were working on it. And then I was on tour all the time. Chris was on tour all the time. So we did the best that we could with the time that we had and the knowledge that we had. But yeah, we had a lot more of both of those in this time. So yeah, I don't know if I answered your question, but I hope I did.
Just a result of that. Is there an element on this album that you feel like it carries the record forward, or is this album really worth by the combination of everything that came to the table?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean by carrying the album forward.
Sometimes you listen to an album and you feel like the symphonic elements of the record are pushing the album forward, or the motor of the record, if you will. Or sometimes you listen to a certain record and you feel like the guitars are the motor of that album because they have such a predominant role across every single track that it's kind of hard to walk away from it. Some records is the vocals. So when you look at this album, is there one thing that becomes the motor of this record, or it's just really a combination of different factors?
I mean, from a song, as like one of the main songwriters, I would say it's the songs, but I mean, that's like the bass player saying, oh, it's the bass. So, but I mean, as objectively as I could try to be, and from the discussions that I've had with Pete, Jack, and Chris, I actually kind of feel like it's a vocals and drums album. Chris's performances on this album are like just mind-blowing to me. I've known him since he was 15. He's always been a stellar musician, but like what he gave on this record is like, how are you human? How are you so young and you've done this, not just to a very good technical level, but you've like embodied the song, the feelings, how did you do that? But yeah, between those two and the fact that every song is just like a clusterfuck of like intense raw emotions, I think those are probably that's what I would say at 10:22 a.m. on Saturday, October or August 28th. I don't even know what fucking
October,
day it is
wow.
anymore.
Like you're definitely,
I'm already in 2022 in my brain.
yeah, you're
mentally.
definitely a vampire. You're even traveling through time as we sit here and speak. So like you got some incredible skills.
Wasn't it like 1827 yesterday? I don't know.
yeah. Yesterday we were in the
Just
17th century, and now here we are. At least it feels like this during the pandemic. I mean, I feel like I've been living through 100 years of pain and suffering.
Yeah.
Packed in two. But you mentioned your vocals. You mentioned the drums. I really like Jack's guitar sound on this album. I know he's not here to defend himself, or to say that his guitars play an important role, but how do you see the guitar sound on this record? I felt like it was different from the two previous albums.
I don't know what he's done differently with his tone, but it's exactly what I would want to sound like if I were a guitar player. I think also Jack is an amazing musician, and I think he has also really, I mean, he was never like an immature player, but like I feel like he's matured so much in the choices that he makes musically. And I think he's always been the type of like lead guitar player to serve the song. And yeah, I don't know anything about guitar tone, but I like his.
No, I just felt you just actually nailed how I felt about it. I felt that on this record he served the songs better. Not that he didn't do that in the previous albums, but I felt like he blended what he was trying to do, his own creative ways, into what was happening in the song. So it kind of felt like just more part of the song and not necessarily me showing what I can do on the guitar. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there are definitely some very cool moments, especially in the solos where it's like, holy shit, wow, where'd you learn to do that? But yeah, I think I would say there are more riffs on this album too, which is pretty cool. I was very much like, can we have more riffs on this album, please? And he was like, yeah, let's go. So especially like a song like Gods of Debauchery or in Tenebris, this dun thing, like very cool. I'm so happy to have more of this side of his artistry on the record, and that's definitely something that I want more of, even more of in the future. Yeah.
And you spoke about Roy Khan being on a track. He's in This God Is Dead. How was working with him?
Amazing. So it's like no secret that he's one of my like top 3 all-time favorite singers forever and ever, amen. And like one of my biggest influences vocally and also like in terms of melody writing. I wrote to Sasha and I was like, can you put me in touch with him? And he's like, here's Roy's email from like 10 years ago. I don't know if he still uses it. I haven't really spoken to him, so I don't know how he is, but you can try. Good luck. And so I did. I was like, hello, sorry for like the cold email. I'm a friend of Sasha's. I sing in his band. I, really look up to you and appreciate your artistry, and made sure to like write it respectfully without being too much of a fangirl, and also didn't want to come off creepy because I hate it when people write to me and they're like, he's for that, but he wrote back to me and like within a couple of hours, and he was like, okay, this is a fun surprise, but I already know who you are because I was looking up what Sasha is doing, and basically he said lots of nice things about my singing, and I was like,
made your day.
Yeah, it really did. It was like God like came down from the sky and was like, yo, good job, you're killing it. So it was really like a dream come true basically. And he was like, yeah, I need, if we're gonna do this, like I need you to like allow me some creative freedom to make sure that the parts suit my voice, and like just let me do what I think is best. And I was like, yeah, please do that. And then
you do you.
Yeah, and he sent back almost exactly what I had written, maybe with like 1 or 2 notes changed and like with an octave double. And I was like, damn, he really sang what I wrote almost exactly, and it's exactly what I wanted. So yeah, it was a great day. Yeah, it was a wonderful, wonderful dream come true.
Uh,
And I'm really grateful.
Moving from you reaching the pinnacle of your existence with Brian Con on a track to another song that really hit home with me, and I have to ask you this because it's been bothering me since I listened to the album, and that is Gods Amongst Men. Is this a little bit of a Dimmu Borgir Gateways tribute?
It is. Did you see me spill coffee down my face just now, by the way? No, you didn't. If you saw it, no, you didn't. Okay. The seed of, let's focus. Come on. There we go. The seed of this song came from a day that I was very angry, and it was during a time when I was like working on my scream tone and listening to a lot of Dimmu Borgir. So it's not like I was like, all right, let's take Gateways, put it in my, in my computer, and like, let's steal parts and try to make it like Gateways, but not Gateways. Like, Mom, can we get Gateways? No, we have Gateways at home, and the Gateways at home is Gods Amongst Men. No, it's not this. But we are definitely very influenced by Dimmu Borgir. I think all four of us are Dimmu fans. I really appreciate like Musis's approach to orchestration and keyboards in general. And I mean, Shagrath is like the screaming influence for me. So, yeah.
There's a little bit.
There's a little bit, but it's not an intentional like worship fest.
No.
That's it came out that way.
I just thought that it had some moments where I was like, wow, man, there's a little bit of Dimmu in here, and I really like it. So it worked for me.
Right on. Specifically, one thing that I like about Dimmu is they have this magic ability to make flutes and like xylophones sound brutal. Like this. I don't know how they do it. Dark. Yeah. I'm like, how did you make a flute sound like the Dark Lord is approaching? But you did.
I think they're the kind of band that if they did a song where they just read the grocery list would sound like a devil incantation anyways. You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's just the kind of band they are. You know what I mean? Like some bands just have that thing in them that they can do whatever they want to do, and they make it to whatever it is that they want to make. It's like, there's no possible explanation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The last question I have for you is about your vocals, because we've talked about the sound, we've talked about the structure, we talked about everything, we talked about Roy Khan. So let's talk a little bit about your vocals. I felt like you took a more diverse approach on this record. You gave us a lot more on this album. I felt like you were free. The impression that I got is that you were not as concerned with perhaps perception or boundaries or restrictions, and you were just like, I'm just going to do me. I know what I can do, and I don't care about the haters on the internet. I'm just going to like do what I need to do. And because of that, it came out very organic. It came out very natural. It really helped the storytelling aspect because it didn't feel forced. Was that something that you did consciously, that you went in wanting to be free, or is that something that just kind of happened as you were going through the process?
Wanting to be free, and like, actually, I was just talking with a friend about this last night. In the last couple of years, I've reached a point with my career where I am really happy and proud of the things that I've been able to do. But I'm realizing like, if I want to, it's not, happiness isn't going to come from like success. Happiness and peace with myself is going to come from being myself unapologetically. And, okay, yes, I'm still going to have to like work for other people. That's how it is for like 99% of people. But in the spaces where I'm allowed to just be myself, I'm going to fucking do that. And if you don't like it, then this isn't for you. And, that's fine. At least I know that I did it for me. And if you don't like it, then I didn't do it for you. I did it for me. So fuck you.
Yeah. At the end of the day, if you're not happy with yourself, then the product, the outcome of it, it's not going to be good either.
That's what I'm saying. It's exactly what I'm saying. I think we were all really, it's not like we were concerned with this, but like our biggest goal for forever and ever has always been to be authentic versions of ourselves. But I think because we had the time and we're like, fuck man, like we really just gotta, we just got to do it. Like, we can't worry about like, is this going to sell well? Is fucking like, are the elite assholes going to be like, no, this is too pop? Like, we can't worry about that. We just have to make what's right for us, and the right people will come.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I mean, to go back to your question, vocally, yeah, I the thing that I cared most about was I started taking voice lessons again because there was time, and because I just been on the road so much in the previous years that I didn't have time to keep continuing. So I wanted to grow instead of stagnate. So I started taking lessons with this guy, David Åkesson. He's a Swedish vocal teacher who started teaching online. And now he's a great friend of mine. And also, like, he's just like the best teacher ever. And he really opened up my voice and like was like, here's how to get rid of like the tension that you have. Here's some like weird things that you can do to like trick your brain into just being yourself, basically. And yeah, I started taking lessons. I started like listening to more kinds of music, including pop. I'm gonna say the dirty word, pop music. There's so much value there that I think a lot of like alternative people they like they don't want to listen to it because they're afraid of how it makes them look.
Yeah.
And I think, fine, if that's how you want to be, then fine, but that's not how I want to be. I want to experience everything, like all the best parts of everything, and then take from that what makes sense and express that in the way that comes out of my mouth. This is becoming like a philosophical question. It's not a vocal related thing. I'm so sorry. I'm still on my first cup of coffee, but yeah. So going back to your question, yes, I was absolutely a lot more free, and it was wonderful and so nice to not have to mold. Yeah, I didn't have to mold myself to be what someone else wanted. I could just be what I wanted to be. I could wear the pirate shirt and the fancy jacket and do the vocal equivalent of that. I can be sensitive and broken, or I could be like dark and brutal and like the fucking demon master. And it's all fine. You know, it's all about finding this balance, and yeah. Anyway, sorry to fucking ramble again.
I think you guys did phenomenal. You did phenomenal on this record. I honestly, I really enjoyed this album. Like I said before, I think this is the best album you guys have released, because it's just, I hate using the word mature because it feels so cliche, but this definitely an album that really shows the growth that you guys have had from the first record all the way up until now. And like I said earlier, I feel very happy and glad that I've been there in the journey with you guys from that first album all the way up until now. So I feel like whatever success you guys reach, I'm part of that success as well. So I'm jumping on the bandwagon. Really, I jumped early on. I built the bandwagon myself, and now I'm just carrying it over.
Yeah, and we're so glad that you did. Thank you for being with us the whole time.
Always, always. Well, thank you, Adrienne, for your time today. Go have another coffee. Enjoy your day. Thank you for your time, and all the luck in the world and all the success in the world with this release on September 10th.
Thank you so much, Pedro.
Take care.
Bye.